I got 2 finance degrees, and through a series of mistakes, I became homeless. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, how I recovered, and what's in it for you. Welcome to Finish First Financially, a channel dedicated to helping millennials and Gen Z to get out of debt and build savings. I'm Goran Radanovic, and today I'd like to tell you how I essentially lost everything and literally ended up on the street. I got my first finance degree and I entered the corporate world, which I saw was very competitive, so I decided to get another degree. Now I've got 2 finance degrees. I'm making a decent living. I'm living in an affluent neighborhood, driving a luxury BMW, going out with my friends. Everything seems to be going well, except that I'm miserable at that job. I'm not happy. I don't have any influence over the decisions that are being made. And I know that the only way things can run the way I want them to is in my own business. So I decided to quit my corporate job to become a barman. I want to learn the hospitality industry because in the near future, I want to open up my own restaurant or nightclub. Yet, I've got the BMW, which is financed. I've got credit card debt, which consists of things that I couldn't afford but wanted to have, but a much smaller income, as you can imagine. And the work is much more difficult. To supplement my shortfall, I take on more debt. I take out an overdraft, and eventually when it's time to open up my nightclub, I apply for a personal loan from the bank, which they granted me. I've got all this debt. I'm about to open up the nightclub, which I'm excited and nervous about. And I host a trial night a week before the official launch just to see the potential flaws in operations. Within opening the nightclub of an hour, I fill up the place with 500 people. I'm thrilled. I think that this is the best thing ever and it's going to be a huge success. Then I get a phone call from the security downstairs. The club was situated on the 13th floor of a building with residents beneath me. I'm wondering what does downstairs have anything to do with me? But I go there to see what the problem is. When I get there, I see several hundred people trying to stampede into the building to get in. They're bashing on the windows, they're making a lot of noise, they're pushing each other. And I don't have the manpower to control them. My bouncers are upstairs. I can't bring them downstairs. So I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. And the residents aren't able to exit the building. So the police are called. They arrive, they spray tear gas, pepper spray, and everybody in my nightclub disperses within few minutes. It's completely emptied out. The following week, I open up the nightclub, the official launch, and not one person arrives. Not a single person. The club is completely empty. I'm embarrassed. I don't know what to do. I'm worried because now I've taken this money which I've borrowed and I've invested into the club and I'm putting out fires with it. So I decided to close the club for 2 weeks just to let the dust settle and do aggressive marketing. I open it up after those 2 weeks and a few people arrive and there's some progress, but not enough to sustain the nightclub. I had to, at the very least, make break even so that we could continue to the next month, which I didn't do. I called the landlord and I tell him that I'm out of money, I cannot carry on. So I closed down the nightclub that I started within 1 month of opening it. As I'm moving my stuff out, an investor knocks on my door and says, "We heard what happened. You've got the experience and some assets. We've got the money. Would you like to try it again?" So not having any options really, and I'm not wanting to go to another job, I decided to do it because I'm going to be the majority shareholder. I had 55% and they had 45% according to our agreement. So to make sure that the nightclub is going to be successful, I make a list of all the mistakes that I made the first time. And within one block of the first venue, I open up the nightclub again 6 months later. And it's a success. It takes off and everything seems to be going well. Within that period, I sell a portion of my shares and my partner becomes the majority shareholder. We're just not getting along. Even though the business is doing well, we're constantly bumping heads because he wants it his way and I want it my way. And he fires me. Not having any experience in this industry, he decides to run the club. Now, I'm no longer involved in the club. I don't have an income. I've got all these debts, the overdraft, the credit cards, the personal loan, and I've taken other debts as well to finance the club. I've got a mountain of debt, but no income. So I leave the club and eventually I'm no longer able to pay my rent and my landlord evicts me. Not having anywhere to go, I put some of my belongings in the car and I park my car on the side of the road and live in it. So there I am, 32 years old. I've got 2 finance degrees, 10 years work experience. I just recently owned a business, yet I'm homeless. Being in that situation was surreal. I couldn't believe what was going on. It felt like I was watching a movie with the point of view from the main actor, yet I was the main actor. I couldn't believe that I'd sunk so low in life that I'd let something like that happen. To make matters worse, I defaulted on the car payments for the last 3 months and the bank called me to repossess the car. And as my car was being loaded onto the tow truck, the gentleman from the bank said to me, "The same way it takes time to go down, it takes time to come up." And that's when I realized that I'd failed financially for years. It wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't just a nightclub or a specific thing. It was several things that had happened throughout a long period of time. If I hadn't taken out debt, if I had savings and investments and so forth, I wouldn't have been homeless. Fortunately for me, a friend of mine found out about my situation and offered me a place to stay. And during that time, I saw that my 2 finance degrees actually meant nothing. I knew nothing about finance and I had to study everything from scratch. So I start getting all this information from books, from videos, and I pretty much reconditioned myself to become a saver, because I think that's really what it comes down to. If you want to have any money, if you want to have investments, a retirement account, you have to become a saver. You have to live below your means. And throughout the next few years, I start improving my financial situation. I'm paying off one debt at a time and I'm kind of scraping at it. So I'm improving, but I'm also making mistakes along the way. I'm investing whereas I should be using that money to pay off the debt. And eventually I can see that my conditioning is taking effect because I've increased my income, but my expenses have stayed the same. I haven't increased them. So I see that I'm starting to become a saver. And throughout the years that follow my homelessness, I eventually pay off all my debt, which was at the time $40,000. And living in South Africa, $40,000 today is a lot of money, but back then it was even more. To getting to a point where I have $50,000 in savings. So from negative $40,000 and being on the street to having my place and having $50,000 in my account. So obviously I'd learned to live the minimalist lifestyle. I completely programmed myself to be a different person who didn't care about what others thought about him. I think the best thing that happened to me about being homeless was that I just stopped caring about what others thought of me. I don't have a car even today because I don't need one. I work from home and I don't care what people think about that. I live way below my means. So I've learned quite a lot about finance, which I would like to share with everybody. And I believe that people can learn from my mistakes and incorporate the information that I've learned through experience and how I changed myself. And I'd like to offer that information really for free. So what I'm doing is offering consultations with people to discuss their finances, to look at their debt and to structure some kind of payments to help them out to decrease their expenses so that they have money at the end of the month and can pay all their debts, to eventually pay everything off and then start building up a savings account. So I'm offering free consultations. If you'd like to come onto the channel to discuss your finances, you can email me at finishfirstfinancially@gmail.com. I'll have that email in the link below in the description. You can also visit finishfirstfinancially.com to get any information about me, about the consultations. Get in touch with me. Let's get you on the channel so that I can help you improve your finances.